Delicious. So far. It's not gonna be in a minute. Hey guys, I'm Nate. Welcome back to the workshop. We've got another fun experiment today using molten salt. Today we're going to see what happens if we combine molten salt with popcorn. We're gonna see if we can get some kernels of popcorn to pop, and then just for the heck of it, we're gonna see what happens if we pour molten salt all over some popcorn that's already been popped. Let's give this a shot. We'll probably try a few different varieties with the kernels, including dropping one kernel into the salt, dropping several kernels into the salt, and then taking kernels, putting them in a pan, and pouring the salt all over them. We'll just see what happens. Let's pour some salt into our crucible, fire up the furnace, and get started. All right, molten hot salt. Man, that is impressive how liquid molten salt is. That's just super runny, and of course it's hot enough that it's gonna light my stick on fire. All right, I'm gonna start with just one kernel, see what happens. Here goes. And it lit on fire. Popcorn's usually cooked in hot oil, which is of course very hot, but more like 400 degrees hot, maybe a little more than that, but this is probably almost 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a lot. But let's try pouring in a few more kernels and see what happens. Ooh, our salt is solidifying on top. We've got our kernels just sort of resting on there. Throwing individual kernels down into it, it slightly breaks the surface of the salt a little bit. I'm just curious if any of these can pop. If we can get one kernel of corn to pop, I'll be pretty happy. I'll also be happy at this point if I can actually just aim well. And there's probably still a lot of molten salt underneath the crust that is formed on top. But it's still so, oh, we've got like half popping corn. The kernels are breaking open. They're just not popping like normal popcorn does. Keep throwing a little bit more on top. As it cools down and they cook a little bit slower at a little bit lower temperatures, we have slightly better chance of getting an actual popped kernel. Hey, there's a sort of popped one. Yes! Haha! We're getting popcorn! It's kind of working! Yeah! A little bit. This is probably the worst way to pop corn I've ever seen. Gotta add more. Ooh, now it smells like burned popcorn instead of just burning salt. Haha! Yeah! Explode! The smallest explosions known to man. Yes! Is this too excited to get about kernels of corn popping? Ooh, that one actually looks edible. It got thrown clear of our crucible and our salt, but it still tastes burned. All right, let's see if we can scoop out our bundles of burned corn here. I think at this point we have a very hot crucible filled almost solidly with salt. So let's throw this back in the furnace, get it back to a nice liquid state, and then see what happens if instead of dropping the kernels into the salt, we pour salt over the kernels. That had some remaining corn kernels in it. They largely got just incinerated in our furnace. All right, here goes. Super orange, glowy, burning hot salt being poured onto popcorn kernels. In 3, 2, 1. That is an even grosser smoke than some other things we've burned with salt. We had a similar result when we poured molten salt onto gummy bears and gummy worms. This smells worse. Burning sugar, not a terrible smell. Burning popcorn, pretty terrible smell. Not a fan. All right, while the salt is still hot, but not as hot, we have movement. And it moved kind of the whole block, so some of it might be kernels underneath the salt. Yes.
I'm still thinking some of these kernels might keep popping, but I think I can already definitively say this is a terrible way to make popcorn. Pop, pop. Weirdly nice colors.
The burned salt gray, black, with like the nice golden brown mixed with the yellow, a couple spots away. I don't know, I just kind of like it. Still quite hot. Possible more kernels will still decide they want to pop, but not a lot of popping going on. We actually had more popping when we just put the kernels down on top of the molten salt inside the crucible. And I wonder if that's just because all of the air inside of the crucible was very hot as well. So they were nice and evenly surrounded with heat, whereas now they're just getting cooked from one side alone. Or it's just timing. Let's take a look at the bottom of this thing. Kernels have fused together with one blackened salt mess. A couple of kernels that managed to pop underneath it. I think we saw our whole piece of salt sort of jump a little bit as the kernels on the bottom did pop. There we go. It's pretty neat. As the salt cools down, it does quickly start forming its crystalline structure. So we've got some good shiny, light reflective spots, even though this is turned pretty much black, which, as I understand it, it's actually pulling some of the carbon out of the graphite crucible. That's part of what's turning it black. And then, of course, it gets further stained by all of the burning popcorn. We have tried mixing our molten salt with our uncooked popcorn, and it didn't work very well, but just to finish off and make sure we've really exhausted every possibility, we're gonna try pouring our molten salt over this cooked popcorn, which I predict is just gonna burn it and make it maybe catch fire and smell really bad. But we don't know until we try. 3, 2, 1. Burning popcorn. I think what's burning now is that there was oil on the popcorn. So there's now little puddles of burning oil here. Salt on one side, popcorn husks on the other. Definitely not going to taste that. Mixing molten salt with popcorn. Normally, salt on popcorn is a good thing. It tastes great and it really adds to the whole experience. But it turns out that temperature of the salt is extremely important. Cold salt, excellent. Hot salt, not so excellent. At least once you're up to a temperature of almost 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It burns the kernels, it burns the popped corn, and overall you just get a smoky, stinky mess that of course is not even close to being edible. We did get a couple of kernels to pop in both methods with the raw kernels and the molten salt. Dropping some kernels into the cup of salt, we got a few that would pop, but when the kernels landed on top of the solidified layer of salt that was still extremely hot, it was able to create a little bit of an oven in the crucible, I think, and some of those kernels did pop and even had enough energy to pop up and out of the container. When we poured the molten salt all over the kernels while they're in our metal pan, we got a couple of them popping, a couple even popped underneath the cooled layer of salt, which made it sort of bounce around a little bit. Pouring molten salt onto our already popped kernels had pretty much exactly the effect I predicted it was going to. It all just caught fire. That's what's going to happen when you pour 2,000 degree liquid salt onto popped popcorn. If you have any cool ideas of things that you want to see covered in molten salt, let us know down in the comments. We might try it out, and if we use your idea, we will be sending you 25 bucks. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you're not a subscriber yet, hit the bomb to get in the club. If you missed our last video or you want to watch it again, click up here at the top. Click down there if you want to see what the internet thinks you should watch next. That's it for now. Have fun, be safe, see you tomorrow.